Skarner was in the rework incubation chamber for over 2 years, and his time is finally here. And we're going over everything Skarner to help you start winning games with this rock throwing, ground stomping, terrain ignoring, champion stinging behemoth of a champion. I've been waiting for this day, and I know you have been too, so let's get into it. First up, we're gonna go over his abilities. They have all changed, however, they aren't as different as you might think. His passive is honestly kind of weird. I'm not really sure why it is this, but here we are. Your basic attacks with your Q, and your ult apply a stack of waking. Then once you get 3 stacks, the enemy will start taking percent health damage ranging from 7 to 12% as magic damage. This really just means your tank wet noodle fights might actually go somewhere, since you will actually be dealing a lot of percent health damage. Skarner's new Q is Shattered Earth. Our boy has graduated. He's no longer a depressed crystal scorpion boy. He's now a paranoid earthquake rock bug, and now he's edgy and cool. This ability will pick up a cool rock that you found, but for some reason this rock shatters after 3.5 seconds if you don't do anything with it. Now when you do something with the rock, your attack speed is enhanced by 40%, you gain a tiny bit of attack range, and bonus AD damage to your auto attacks equal to 40% of your bonus AD and 6% of your bonus health. Now this will last for 3 auto attacks, and on that 3rd auto attack you'll shatter the rock over the top of the enemy's head and slow them for 1.25 seconds, dealing 15% of their max health as additional damage on top of all your other damage. However, we go back a bit. After you originally cast your Q, after 0.75 seconds, you'll have the ability to cast it again instead of using your auto attack things, and he'll throw that rock at the enemy. Now listen to me, because the in-game tooltip is wrong on this one. If you do recast and throw the rock, Skarner will throw the rock and deal damage. However, the tooltip in the game shows that it will deal the same damage as if it was the 3rd auto attack. It does not. It will deal less damage. This might be fixed in the future, but just keep that in mind. I thought I was all cool using 2 auto attacks and throwing a rock immediately to deal damage faster, because I thought it was more like an auto attack reset, but my bad. Just keep the rock and do your last hit. Now Skarner's W is Side Bash. This will slam the ground, deal magic damage with an 80% AP scaling, slows the enemy's hit, and gives you a 9% shield based on your max HP. The range on this damage is actually pretty massive, and honestly, this ability is close to his previous W, just training the speed boost for the damage. Now there has been some players maxing this ability first, but we'll look at that a bit later. Skarner's E is the Pain Train. I mean, Ixtal's Impact. Now this ability is basically a mini Scion ult. You'll start at 150 movement speed regardless of your normal movement speed, then charge up to 950 movement speed at the end of the ability. This will give you a slow immunity, doesn't affect small minions, and ignores terrain, so walls don't matter anymore. But when did they ever? Am I right, Talon? Now if you hit an enemy champion with this ability, it will grab them and it will carry them with you. If you grab the enemy and carry them into a wall, it will deal damage and stun them. If you don't hit the wall, then it will just kind of carry them for a little bit. Now the length of this ability is really weird. If you grab an enemy in the first 1.75 seconds, then you only carry the enemy for about 1 second. So this really wants you to charge up to be the most effective. When you do collide with an enemy, at any point in your travel after this, you will only carry them for a set amount of travel time. So if you do hit them at the end of your charge, you will get the opportunity to take them even further and actually get the chance to pin them against the wall. Now last up we have Impale. Now this ability is the same and different at the same time. Now that Skarner's grown up, he has 3 stingers instead of 1 and can grab a total of 3 targets. This comes out as a trapezoid, deals AP damage to anyone in the area, then it will grab the 3 closest targets and you can carry them with you like you used to. During the cast time, you are locked in place. You do have displacement immunity, so the enemy can't knock you out of there, but you also can't do any sort of flash shenanigans. So this ability has quite a lower floor than the old Skarner ult used to have, because you can actually hit no one. However, it has a far higher ceiling because you can hit 3 people at the same time. Oh yeah, and Skarner can't hold a rock and the enemies at the same time, so if you cast this while you're holding the rock, you'll throw the rock and immediately do the ult cast. Alright, now for his runes, it seemed like you have a few choices. The top lane Korean League gods are taking Comet. If you do this, you'll want to max your W, and it makes you an extremely annoying champion to lane against, but we'll look at that in a bit as well. This also does help if you're in like a ranged matchup, which is pretty crazy. Now if you're in a normal melee lane, you can still do Comet, but you also have the option to take Grasp the Undying. It'll just give you a bit more sustain in those early fights and kind of beef you up to be a bit tank. Now Conquer is also an option for longer sustained fights, or if you know the enemy team is going to be like super tanky, so you can take advantage of it. Phase Rush is still showing as like a default option for Skarner. However, I probably don't think it's really needed anymore, and honestly, I don't think it's worth it. And then the red and utility primary runes are just not really good. Now, for his build, the general consensus is full tank. Now, you do have abilities that scale off your max HP, so it actually does work out and helps your damage. This is the general build I've seen. However, items like Titanic Hydra, I can definitely see working. Sundered Sky is more of a possibility if you know the fights are going to kind of go for a long time, maybe if you're taking that Conqueror, and then just build tank items based on the matchup, but usually a Bomby Cinder item is a key item of his choice. And that's it, we did it, we're in the game, and let's take a look at the roles that he usually plays. Now, he always has his main position, and right now it actually seems to be jungle, just as Papa Ride intended. However, we don't listen to them sometimes, and I have seen him quite a lot in the top lane, and that's actually where I think he's best at right now. He was even hotfixed because of his top lane presence, and I still think he's pretty strong. Now, if you're like me, I'll also play him as support because I am a crazy person and I love off meta. Now, I don't see any reason to take a mid. You'll just really be poked to oblivion, and obviously 80 is a bad idea, so I probably wouldn't do that either. There are a few different ways to play him in lane as well. W max with Comet as your rune has risen and allows him to poke the enemy laner, even if it's a ranged enemy laner, with minimal damage to yourself. Your shield doesn't wait for your damage to go through, so as soon as you walk up to cast it, even if you're against a ranged laner and they auto attack you, you'll hit with your W, you deal your damage, hit them with Comet, they'll do damage to you, but it'll go on your shield. And because of the slow as well, you can just back off before they even get secondary follow-up damage on you. And if you need to play even safer than that, you can just use your Q to pull up the rock from the ground and then use the range Q to farm or range poke when you can. Now, being a full tank, you don't really have the ability to 100 to 0 most champions. You really want to just be annoying in lane and poke when you can. If the enemy is being aggressive and chasing, then you can do a little quick change of direction, get behind them, and then you E them towards your tower, or you can do the same thing with your flash so that you can get behind them even quicker. These options also work with walls. If you ever played Poppy and the enemy walks close to the wall, you know it's go time. E the enemy into the wall, W, Q autos on the enemy, and just kind of deal as much damage as you can. And you do have a lot of slows available to you, so it is kind of hard to get away unless they have their summoner. Now, your CC is further increased with your ultimate. You can E them into the wall, then ultimate to drag them either under your tower or further away from their tower so that you can just follow up with your W and Qs so you can constantly slow them. If you are going for the full kill, make sure to use your Q first, then activate your E, because while you're in that E animation, your Q does not fall off. However, I digress. Really, laning is just trying to be annoying with your W. If you can get a kill, then just go for it. You can also max Q. It's basically how he was designed, so it's definitely going to be good. However, W is the primary one right now. Now, jungling is a bit different. You're going to take your regular pathing. You're going to level up normally with your Q. Nothing really special about it. There isn't going to be any sort of like secret jungle clear that only works for Skarner, but you can use your E to get the camps faster, and it does work on large monsters. Use that damage to your advantage. Your gank potential without your E is basically nothing, so if you wouldn't be able to do that, then don't waste your time going to that lane. But for your ganks, you can actually play it like Kayn. You have the ability to go completely through a wall for a gank. When you do go through the wall, you don't have a ton of range afterwards to follow through with your stun, so you just got to make sure you can get it. It's really most useful if the enemy is pushed up or you're diving, but sometimes it can just be surprising, especially if the enemy isn't paying attention. Now, I did say this earlier, if you do want to take him support, then best start is your Q, then go E second, because for some reason bot laners don't check their wall positioning early, and you can just get an early summoner or an early kill. Throwing the rocks is really nice because you didn't have that poke capability when you were the previous Skarner. However, the W Comet isn't really the best thing to do while you're in the support role, just because you have two people that are able to follow up on you instead of like a 1v1 lane. But honestly, if you are going to take this pick, don't pick it into anyone that can interrupt your E, or else you are basically useless. Any champ with hard CC can make you really sad. Now, in the mid game, you're the tank, you're the engager, but you're also going to be a side laner. Don't be too risky in the side lanes, especially if you don't have a ton of vision. You can always use your E to get out of some sticky ganks, but if you're caught out by multiple enemies, and it's just really hard to run away. Just push the wave and get out and group up. Push the wave, get out and group up. You always want to try and be there for any team fights because that is where you are really needed. You are the frontliner after all. However, you can play a little back because even as a tank, you want to use your ramping E speed for your main engage. If you get someone and the enemy tries to jump on you, then that's the perfect time to ult the enemies and hopefully drag a few of them out of position. And that's it. We did it. We won the game. And if you enjoyed this and want to explore the world of off-meta supports, check this video out here. Talk to you later.